Cool. So on my latest video debunking the hyperloop video by Business Insider, I made this piece of kit here to show just how devastating a single pinhole leak can be to a vacuum system, and how, if you apply this to something that is a huge vacuum system, you really, one cracked seal anywhere, one cracked welder anywhere, and it's all over. Anyway, if you're interested as to how I made this thing, this is how I made it. And this is I think these are actually piranha of one sort or another. They'll basically go on conductivity of one sort or another. So you see even just moving it around. It's really very inaccurate. From 1 atmosphere down to about 10 millibar. But from about 10 millibar, it's very accurate down to 1,000th of a millibar. So this is the guy that we're going to be using for our little demo. So what we're going to do is we're going to take something like this, and we're going to attach the gauge to it, just to show this thing. I should hopefully be able to pump this down and get it as a sealed system to hold a vacuum. So these taps here are also very good. These will easily hold millibar vacuum, maybe even down to 1,000th of a millibar, that sort of thing. So if I pump this out and I attach the vacuum gauge to this in a very airtight fashion, then I should be able to show you that, if you pump a vacuum system down, it's a good vacuum system, you've got no problems whatsoever. The second thing I want to show is I'm going to put on here a little piece of aluminium window, probably from the Coke can that we crushed a couple of weeks ago, because that'll work fine. And then I'm going to put a shingle pinhole in that, and we'll see what effect that has on this thing's ability to hold a vacuum, both when it's just as a regular sealed system and when we're pumping on it. Right, so what we're going to need is, first of all, some sort of sidearm on this guy. And these are fairly standard fittings, but obviously So that's the actual vacuum. So that's the actual vacuum gauge itself. And this is a sort of fairly standard fitting. But the nice thing is, it means that all I've really got to do is glue that onto a sidearm here somehow. Maybe something like that. Good. Right, so let's give that a go, shall we? So at the moment you are wearing didinium shades of one sort or another. So the bit on the outside here, this is true colour, and this is to screen out all the orange that you're going to get off the torch here once you start melting glass. Otherwise you'll just be completely blinded by it. So in the first case, what we're going to do is I need a way of getting that to fit in there. At the moment you see it's a loose fit, so I don't have really quite the right piece of glass. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to thicken this up a bit, and then I'm going to melt it and push it together, and you'll get a lip on that, such that when that pushes in there, I get the lip about there. Actually, I'll just do it in the middle. I'll cut everything off later. It's going to push on there, and then I'm just going to glue it on from there, and then that I have to attach on there somehow, and we'll take it from there. Right, so with any luck, by now the oxygen generator should be up to speed, and let's see if we can get fire. Fire, excellent. So when I bring up some heat on this thing, there we go. This is just to give you an idea of what the glasses are actually all about. Is if I just get some glass in there, You see it looks fairly bright there. If you take a look at what it's like without the didymium, it's quite a change going on in the flame. Without it, you have zero chance of seeing what's going on. With it, it's possible. So that's what all the purple filter stuff is about. So in the first instance, we just, actually I might go for it in one go. Let's be brave. If I get it all screwed up, it doesn't matter, I'll just do it again. So you get it nice and molten, and then it should just be a matter of pushing, and you get, and if you've done it, do it straight. Actually, trickier than it sounds. At the moment he is not straight. That's better. It's not bad. Okay, excellent. So now, with any luck, it's just going to go in there. That's going to get glued in. I want to recover this at some point, so I'll probably just use cheap epoxy. It'll be good enough for the seal, and then at the end I can either just burn the epoxy off or just break the glass, break this piece of glass, or freeze it or something, get the epoxy off. Good, right, so there's part one. I've now got to get some extra bits on there. So the way I'm going to have it is the gauge is going to be off on this side, this tube's going to be coming towards us. So which bit do we want to do first? Doesn't matter, right? Oh no, let's do this one first, this one. And I'll do it like that for two reasons. First of all, I'm going to need to warm the glass up. And so this is borosilicate glass. It's fairly robust stuff, but yeah, even at that, you can't be too bold with it. If you stick it straight into the powerful hot flame, you will crack it. At the moment, it's, you know, a few hundred degrees or something. Once you've got past that point, you can really be quite bold in putting on the heat. Let me get more flame out of this. There we go. Okay, I'm looking at it with my naked eyes now. We're starting to get sodium off. That means it's about 300 degrees. Right. We can. I'm going to need a bit of glass. Is that too big? It's probably a bit big. It's a bit smaller. Oh, that looks pretty good. Good. Right. I need a slice. Right, so I'm slicing glass, dead easy. Just if this one was sharp, it would be dead easy. If it's sharp, you just put a scratch in the glass like that, lick it, break it away, and it's all dead easy. And for this, a small flame. Small. Oh yeah, that's more like it. In the first instance, I'm just going to blow this guy out. Yeah, that's good enough. And then you just, once you get a nice little bubble, you break off the little chips, and there you go, he's done. You have to be a bit careful you don't fill the kit up with gas, but you know, some fairly decent bangs otherwise. this end up. Whatever. As long as it's functional. More heat. Lots more heat. That's bad news. Let's sort it mostly out first. There we go. And after that, this is only ever going to be used once, so they're not going to be too pretty. Approaching functional. Alright, it sort of worked. There you go. Right, so that's going to be one of my arms, and the other one, once the other bit will be cold by now, which is good. So that's going to go on there somehow. So I'm going to find a way of keeping all kit sealed up. Good. I just need to cut this guy down a bit. Let's try about there. That. So we're going to screw this one up quite most badly. So Okay, that's sort of acceptable. Yeah, it sort of does the trick. It's a seal. Right, so now I'm going to chop that off at a suitable length, and I've got to sort of quasi-anneal this, otherwise it can crack when it gets cold, which can also be rather bad news if you're under a vacuum. So, that I'm going to chop off about there somewhere, and then we'll get onto the annealing and all that sort of crap. So you get a nice sharp gizmo, and you put your scratch in. I'm going to break this one by hand. Now we'll heat crack it. Like that. Little tap. One. Alright, now we're just going to even out the sharpie bits on the outside, make it nice and smooth. That's about right. So now you can start to see where this is all going. That's going to go on there, and we are going to need we're going to need this guy cut off. This one we can just do by hand, so I don't know about that, it doesn't really matter. There somewhere. A little licking, a little breaking, and a little evening everything out. Oh, right. Yeah, super, done. And, you know, actually that bad on the stress, but whatever, we'll heat it up. For which we're on a big flame. Alright, it's amazing on my gas. Just heat it up enough that it's going to, yeah, if there's any nasty stress in here, this will get it out. Usually you can see it if it's really nasty. I'm just going to take it up such that it's, I can see it with the naked eye. I'm getting the sodium glare off this, which is usually just about enough to. Okay, we'll call it quits with that. Let it cool down. Don't get cool down too quickly. And then, yeah, once it's cool enough that you're getting soot condensing on it, you're good. We're done. That's it. You are done. There he is. Gotta let it cool down. That's incineratingly hot. You touch any bit of that, you will scream and drop it, I can tell you. So, a piece of aluminium foil is going to be glued on there. A connector for a vacuum gauge is going to be put on there. I can then suck it out on this one, seal it up on this one, and we should be good to go. So, soot wipes off really very, very easily. And then I'm just going to clean it up a bit and we'll be done. So this here is going to be the poor man's version of a glass metal, the poor very impatient man's version of a glass metal seal. Now you can actually get direct glass metal seals that hold almost perfect vacuum, but something like this would probably be, you know, a couple $100, that sort of thing. So you, this is the poor man's version, is just gluing it. Now, if I was being serious about this, I would probably use a high vacuum epoxy like Torseal, but that's also expensive, and I'm an impatient man, so I'm using 5-minute epoxy. Well, yeah, epoxy is pretty good for vacuums. So, yeah, we should have this done within a few minutes. So the first thing we're going to do is mix up our epoxy. I need that much. That should be fine. Mix it with, no matter what. Now, epoxy is just basically a chemical reaction. So the hotter it gets, the faster it cures. And so, me being an impatient man, not wanting to wait the full 5 minutes, I'm going to cook this for a bit. So I'm just going to warm it up a little. It'll make it much more fluid. I mean, it'll mix much quicker. It also means it will set much quicker. So now it's nice and fluid. I'm just going to give it a second or two to start thickening up like that. That's perfect. Right, we now don't get long to get this done right. There we go. Super. Oops. Perfect. Toothpick would be better. Perfect. So needs to be nice, even coating all the way around. Not far off that. And just to be sure, I'll put coating on the metal too. It should just be a matter of that. There we go. Super. And if we're keen and we don't even want to wait for that to sort itself out, just heat the metal. Metal will take the heat down to the epoxy. And you give that a few minutes and you are done. So it'll be super runny whilst it's hot, but then it will cure very fast. It's only 40 degrees or something at the moment. There we go, that should be fine. Beautiful. Right, so by the time that's cooled down, that will be ready to go. And it's starting to viscous up nicely. Yeah, another few minutes and that will be ready to go. Right, so here is a part of that Coke can that we used a couple of weeks ago. Complete with a practice pinhole I made earlier, just to check that I could actually get a needle through this. Right, so what we're going to do is on the back side here, we're going to chop off a little bit and we're just going to glue that on there. Then we should be able to pump the system down. So is he done yet? He is very nearly done. He's done. He's solid. Good, right, excellent. So at that point, actually I'll just give him another minute or two. He should be good. So we just need to cut a nice piece of aluminium. There we go, super. Should be able to hold a vacuum very nicely. You know, over a small area. So, a nice little all the way around. one has to be a little cleaner than the other guy. Oh, that's nice. Maybe a bit over there. That's perfect. Now, yeah, that's pretty decent. Yeah, it's not quite straight, but it's good enough. Looks to be a seal. Good. And at that point, we should be able to cook them up. And it'll be all awesome. Good. So, almost the point where we can put them on the vacuum. We almost have our kit ready. So, at this point, you should almost be able to see how this thing's all going to work now. I'm clamping it on here because this is the biggest, heaviest thing. You know, I don't have too much strain on your joints. And that's going to go on there somewhere. I might give this a little bit of support. Super. Right. So now you can sort of see where this is all going. Yeah, so we've now got the high vacuum kit. There's some water in here. I washed this out earlier. So, good. So here we've got a piece of kit that is nothing other than a vacuum gauge here. It's attached to a flask with a single piece of aluminium just glued on there, which we're going to puncture later. And then there is a high vacuum tap up here. And at the back we've got the pressure reading of what's in there at the moment, which is 1 atmosphere. Now this thing is very inaccurate till you get down to about 10 millibar, okay? Now what you can hear at the bottom is a rotary pump, one of those guys. And that'll pull down less than a millibar. Right, so what I'm going to do is open it up to the full vacuum. And you'll see roughly how quickly it pumps down. So, yeah, it's a big pump going on a fairly small system, but even at that, you can see that it really slows down once you get down to millibar type pressures. And in order to just get this, to get it going this well, I've had that pumping for some time to get some of the vapor pressure out of the oil and to partially dry all of this system here. Now there are two places that I can seal this. I can close this tap here, which means that this is a really good vacuum seal here. But other than that, I've got it, there is some tubing up there, and I can close it off near the pump. So if I close it off near the pump, which has some fairly non-high vacuum stuff in the middle, so it's closed off now, you can see it's leaking. That's the system leaking. And fairly quickly we're getting up to 1 millibar, right? So that's now 1 millibar. When it's got -1 up there, it's like point whatever millibar. So it's leaking, right? So I'm going to open it up again, and it'll pump down again very quickly. Hang on. This, by the way, this is not bad for a rotary pump. For a rotary pump to get down to half a millibar, that's not bad. You can maybe get 0.01, 0.05 millibar off a rotary pump. To get this off is not so bad. So, you know, we're sub-millibar vacuum in here at the moment. Now, at that, if I close it off at the high vacuum tap at the top here, it's now going to be a sealed system, right? So there we go, it's a sealed system. So at that, I can turn off the main pump once I've got that sealed up. Boom. And what you should find is, I mean, this might actually go up very, very slowly. What you're probably mostly looking at there is this hasn't been pumped down. Once you get down to less than a millibar, you know, degassing surfaces and all that sort of thing, you've got to do it. So this is leaking away very, very slowly, right? Or it's outgassing or something. Either way, it's fairly slow. This, for a vacuum system, is pretty bloody good. Now what I'm going to do is I have myself here a pin. I'm going to put a pinhole in my aluminium here, and we'll see what that does to our vacuum, okay? So we're just going to go for a single pinhole. Different location, see if that helps us out any. There we go, got it. Right, so that's what a pinhole does for you in terms of losing the vacuum. And just to show you that is actually just a pinhole, we can now actually go to the same system, but I'm going to go full pumping on it. Right, so at the moment, yeah, that was all just leaking through a pinhole, okay? We'll get that pinhole under a microscope in a second. Cool, so to put it all into perspective, I've now got a single one of my hairs taped right next to the hole. And the hole looks like that. If I give it a little nudge, you'll see that's actually the live image from the microscope. And to make it even more funky, what I can do is I can get an ultraviolet light, and really matter what it is, just shine it from underneath. Oh, ha ha! There you go. That's the hole. So hairs, just so you know, hairs are about 1/10 of a millimeter, 100 microns in size, and so the hole is half a millimeter, 500 microns, that sort of thing. But now I'm going to open this up and we'll see what the best vacuum we can pull is, right? So previously, you will recall our best vacuum was less than a millibar, and a single pinhole in a kit like this now reduces us to about 20 millibar. And just to show that really is all there is to it. Right? When I close up the pinhole, it gets better. If I close it hard, I'll push my finger against it hard, you can see that we get down to, you know, millibar, almost sub-millibar. There you go, sub-millibar. And all it takes is to expose that pinhole again, and all of a sudden our limiting vacuum is 20 times worse from a single pinhole. That's why big vacuum systems are difficult.